Today's subject is a woman whose presence electrified the screen, whose roles shaped decades of cinema, and whose name became shorthand for both beauty and defiance, Demi Moore. She shattered ceilings in an era that boxed women in, commanded leading roles once reserved for men, and rewrote what it meant to be a female star in Hollywood. Not just surviving the industry's double standards, but confronting them head-on with a stare that never blinked. But behind the blockbuster hits, the Vanity Fair covers, and the whisper-fueled marriages that kept tabloids spinning, Demi Moore's most enduring legacy didn't come from fame. It came from family. Long before the red carpets and after the magazine spreads, Demi raised three daughters with Bruce Willis. Daughters who inherited not just her striking looks, but her fire, her vulnerability, and her fight. Today we uncover the story of a woman who grew up in chaos, faced addiction, trauma, and heartbreak, and still chose to become the kind of mother she never had. She was fierce on screen, fragile behind closed doors, but always intentional as a parent. While the world saw the powerhouse and ghost in G.I. Jane, her children saw something else. A woman doing the work even when the cameras were off, reading scripts with them, attending therapy with them, fighting not just for herself, but for their future. She wasn't perfect. Breakdowns happened, relationships fractured. But to her daughters, she was never a headline. She was just mom. And in the end, long after the flashbulbs faded and the industry moved on, Demi Moore wasn't remembered for just the stardom or the scandal. She was remembered for the way she showed up for her girls, raw, real, and always reaching for something better. This is the story of Demi Moore, and what happened to the three daughters who walked through fire beside her. First came Rumer Willis, the eldest daughter, and the first to witness both the glitter and the grief of her mother's fame. Born in 1988, she entered the world at the height of Demi Moore and Bruce Willis's dominance over Hollywood. From a young age, Rumer was photographed on red carpets, dressed in designer clothes, appearing in public as the poster child of a Hollywood dynasty. But behind the flashbulbs, she was absorbing chaos. As Demi battled the pressures of aging in a youth-obsessed industry, navigated a high-profile marriage to Ashton Kutcher, and spiraled through addiction and breakdowns, Rumer quietly endured the fallout. Her first roles in film, including appearing alongside her mother in Striptease, came not just from access, but from necessity. Acting became a form of survival, a way to carve her own voice beneath the noise of tabloid headlines. Still, the shadow loomed. Every casting announcement, every media profile was tethered to the phrase Demi Moore's daughter. When Demi's public collapse made national headlines in 2012, Rumer was barely in her 20s, suddenly pushed into the role of emotional caretaker for her younger sisters, while trying to keep her own life afloat. Her breakthrough came not from her last name, but from grit, winning Dancing with the Stars, commanding the Broadway stage as Roxy Hart in Chicago, and earning respect in indie cinema. By the time she became a mother herself in 2023, Rumer had quietly rewritten the script. "I want to be the kind of mother my mom tried to be," she said. "Not to erase the past, but to honor the fight behind it." Her story is not one of escape, but of transformation. She didn't reject her mother's legacy. She wrestled with it, forgave it, and built her own. Next is Tallulah Willis, the middle daughter, born in July 1991, just as Demi Moore was filming A Few Good Men and solidifying her status as one of the highest-paid actresses in Hollywood. From infancy, Scout lived in a world of flashing lights and frantic schedules, often seen cradled in Bruce's arms during set visits or nestled beside Demi during press tours. But unlike her older sister, Scout never appeared eager to perform. Even as a child, she absorbed everything with quiet eyes. The rising tension in her parents' marriage, the long absences, the sudden shifts in mood when Demi's health wavered. By the time she was 10, Scout had already seen her parents' marriage end and her mother remarry Ashton Kutcher, a man closer to her sister's age than her own father's. When the media frenzy surrounding that relationship exploded in the early 2000s, Scout was a preteen navigating adolescence under scrutiny she never asked for. In 2009, she enrolled at Brown University, intentionally choosing a path far from LA, where she studied writing and music. That same year, Demi launched a heavy social media presence and began attracting controversy for oversharing and feuding online. While Scout quietly released early demos and journal entries that revealed a more grounded, reflective voice. Then came 2012, Demi's infamous hospitalization. Scout, then 21, was thrust into the same whirlwind that nearly consumed her mother. But instead of crumbling, she retreated to songwriting. She toured small venues by 2015, releasing deeply personal tracks filled with subtle references to maternal instability, sisterhood, and inherited pain. In 2019, when Demi's memoir Inside Out reignited public curiosity about their darkest family chapters, Scout didn't shy away. She stood by her mother publicly, but turned the experience inward, reshaping it through music. By 2022, she released her debut album, a raw blend of folk, soul, and confession, marking her emergence not just as a daughter of celebrities, but as an artist molded by the chaos, yet never defined by it. Now in her early 30s, Scout remains rooted in introspection. She doesn't deny the past. She distills it, one song at a time. Finally, there's Tallulah Willis, the youngest daughter born in February 1994, during the apex of Demi Moore's fame. At the time, Demi had just stunned the world with her bold pregnancy photo on the cover of Vanity Fair, redefining motherhood in Hollywood. That child in the photo was Tallulah. From birth, she was already a cultural symbol, not by choice, but by inheritance. Raised in a home that swung between glamour and emotional chaos, Tallulah absorbed more than her share of instability. As a child, she watched her mother prepare for demanding roles like G.I. Jane, transforming her body for Hollywood, while simultaneously struggling with body image and control behind the scenes. That pressure filtered down. By her teenage years in the late 2000s, Tallulah was already deep into a battle with eating disorders, body dysmorphia, and self-destructive behavior. The media didn't help. She was mocked online for her appearance, her weight, and her last name. At 17, she began to unravel publicly. While Demi was enduring a breakdown in 2012, Tallulah dropped out of college and spiraled into substance abuse. For years, she drifted, sometimes into art, sometimes into silence. Rehab came in 2014, but recovery was uneven. What made her journey unique, though, was the brutal honesty she brought to it. In her 20s, Tallulah began sharing openly about mental health, addiction, and what it meant to grow up with a mother who was both her hero and, at times, a mirror of instability. In 2020, she launched Willis, a fashion brand rooted in body neutrality and emotional healing. And by 2023, when Bruce Willis's health declined and the family rallied around him, Tallulah emerged not as the lost daughter, but as a fiercely loyal one. She shared intimate photos, reflected on regret, and showed the world what it looks like to love your parents through their worst and forgive them anyway. Now in her 30s, newly engaged and creatively reawakened, Tallulah is no longer just the daughter of Demi Moore. She's the survivor who walked through the fire of fame, breakdowns, and public cruelty, and came out the other side, not polished, but painfully real. 3 daughters. None of them asked for the spotlight. None of them escaped it. They were born into headlines, raised on red carpets, and came of age while their mother unraveled in public. But they didn't just survive the chaos, they studied it. Rumer carried the weight of expectation and transformed it into strength. Scout turned pain into poetry and found her voice in the quiet. Tallulah faced demons most wouldn't name, then named them anyway, and healed out loud. They didn't inherit her stardom, they inherited her fight, and they chose to wield it. Not on stage, not in tabloids, but in truth. If you found this breakdown powerful and want more deep dives into the hidden lives of Hollywood's forgotten children, subscribe to Legacy Uncovered. Your support brings these invisible stories to light. Thanks for listening.